Okay. So in last session, we have explored some of the properties related to CSS, right? Properties like width, height, margin, padding. So these were the properties which we have explored in the last session. I hope you guys are very clear with the difference between margin and padding, right? A lot of people get confused with this topic, margin and padding. So are you guys clear with this topic, or do you guys have any kind of doubts? If you have any doubts, feel free to ping on the chat. I will try to resolve those doubts because I know in a lot of interviews, they are going to ask the question related to this margin and padding. Okay. So I just want everybody to be clear with this topic, margin and padding. You should not have even 1% of confusion between margin and padding. Okay. Yeah. So margin adds space inside the body or outside, inside the border or outside the border. Margin adds space inside the border or outside the border. Yes, it adds outside the border. Padding adds space inside the border. Okay, a basic difference between margin or padding, or you can say padding adds space between border and content of the element. Okay, so this is our margin, this is our padding. I hope padding and margin are clear for each and every. Okay, now let's suppose I want to create like this one card, guys. I just want to create one card like this. In this card, I want to display one user image. I want to display some user image. I want to show here username. Okay, I want to show some username, maybe something like this. Ayush Verma. Okay, some username. I want to show some I just want to show some bio related to the user, some 2 or 3 lines information about the user, something like bio. After that, I just want to create one button. I want to create one button. Now tell me, to create the card in this particular structure, which element we can utilize, or HTML and CSS providing us any element so that we can create the card. Yeah, Ravi, I will explain the display property after a few minutes. Okay. Now tell me, to create card, did you learn any HTML element? Do we have any HTML element to create like this card? Or do you have any CSS property to create the card? Okay, now we don't have any HTML element or CSS property directly available to create a card like this, right? So if you don't have anything like that, then what we need to do, we have to utilize existing CSS properties and existing HTML elements, and we have to create a card structure. We have to create one card structure. How can we create a card structure? So can I do one thing? Can I take one div element? If I take one div element, by default, what will be the width of a div element? By default, what is the width of your div element? So if I take a div element here, for example, if I create one card.html, okay, if I create my basic skeleton of the document here, okay, if I take like this one div, now tell me by default, what is the width of this div? It's 100%, right? And what will be the height of the div? What will be the height of the div? Height of the div? Yeah, depends upon the content, right? How much content we have, that much will be the height of our div. Okay, so can I add border for this div? Can I add border? So here I'm just taking style tag, selecting my div, adding the border like 3 pixel solid, something like black. Okay, now I have only one div element. To that div element, I just added a border property. So now if I load this document in my browser, it looks something like this. Okay, it looks something like this. Here you are getting some extra space, right? Here we are getting some extra space. Now, can you guys tell me if I want to remove this extra space, what I need to do? On the top, on the left, on the right, we are getting some extra space. If I want to remove that extra space, what I need to do? Yes, I need to assign margin property to this body element, right? This body. So I have to select that body. I have to assign margin property, and the value of this margin should be 0 pixel. If I say 0 pixel, that space will be removed. Now see, that space got removed. Okay, now we have a basically we have a div. We know that by default the width of div is 100% and height depends upon how much content we have. Can we decrease the width of this div? Can we decrease the width of this div like this? Can I decrease the width of my div? Yes. Can I increase the height of my div? Can I increase the height of my div? So suppose this is my div. So like this, I can decrease width and I can increase the height. If I decrease the width and if I increase the height of my div, do you think that it will get a card structure? Do you believe that it will get a card structure? It got one card structure, right? Just by decreasing the width, increasing the height. So can I try same thing for my this div? Can I make width something like maybe something like 250 pixel and height I will make something like 300 pixel. Okay, if I go back to my browser, now see I got a card kind of structure. Maybe I will increase the height to 400 pixel. Now see I got a card kind of structure. Now this div I want exactly in the center. This div I want exactly in the center. What I need to do for that? Now this is my screen. Let's suppose this is my screen. Inside this screen, we just created one card using our div element. Using our div element, we just created one card like this. Now card is exactly on the left side. I want this card should become exactly in the center like this. I want exactly in the center. So how to bring this card exactly in the center? Nothing but this div, how to bring exactly in the center? Yes. If I want to bring this card exactly in the center means if I give equal space from left and right, do you think card will come exactly in the center? If I generate equal space from left and right, if I generate equal space from left and right, do you think that card will come exactly in the center? See, our card is here. Our card is here. If I want my card should come exactly in the center, somehow I need to give equal space or I need to generate equal space from left and right. If I generate equal space from left and right, my card will come exactly in the center because it will have an equal space from left and right. Now, if you want to give equal space from left and right, you should know the total space. You should know this total width. If you know the total width, then only you can align or you can add equal space from left and right. Okay. So we have to know the total space, nothing but total width from here to here. What is the width? Okay, now do you think that this width will change screen to screen? If I have 14-inch screen, or if I 16-inch screen, or if I am using tab, do you think this width will change? Right? So what we are going to do, we are going to use one special value. CSS has given us one special value called auto. Now CSS is telling that this value you can assign to margin property. Auto is a special value which we can assign to a margin property. If you assign auto value to margin property, then what your browser will do, it will generate equal space from left and right. It will generate same space from left and right, irrespective of your screen size, irrespective of your screen size that your browser is going to calculate. As a developer, you need not to worry. So you have to just assign margin property, and to that margin property, we have to assign the value auto. Auto is a special value, and this auto value will generate equal value for left and right margin. So if you go back here, if I just use margin property and if I assign value auto, so what auto will do, it will generate equal space from left and right. Remember, it will generate equal space only from left and right, not from top and bottom, only from left and right. So if I save it, now see, I got my div exactly in the center. Exactly in the center. Okay. So if you want center from top and bottom also, you want exactly in the center, then for that we have to use another property called flex concept. Okay. So using margin, we cannot bring our div exactly in the center. So we can bring our div exactly in the center only from left and right, nothing but only in the x-axis direction. Now what I will do, I will simply add here margin top property, something like 100 pixel. Now 100 pixel will be added from the top and bottom, and from left, right, auto value. Auto means generate equal space. Now if I come back here, now see 100 pixel has been generated from top and 100 pixel from the bottom. Now we got here exactly like this. Maybe I will decrease to 50 pixel, not 100. So my card got here. Now what we need to display, I need to display one image, right? So inside this div, I can take one image, src, some value, width, I will say 100%, height, maybe I will add 200. That's it. After that, one h2, something like Ayush Verma. Here I will add some bio, some random content, something like lorem 20. And after that, one button. So to create one button, we have one button element, guys. In HTML, there is one button element. Okay, this button element is going to provide us only one tag, that is button tag. And using this button tag, we can create any kind of button. Whatever content you want to add on the button, that content you have to add in between this opening tag and closing tag. So using this button tag, we can create any kind of button. Now, suppose after this paragraph, I want one button. Simply, I will take one button tag. And here I will add some content like profile. Now, if I save it, if I go back here, now see, I got here Ayush Verma. I got some content like lorem, and here one profile button. Here I got some profile button. Now I want all this content exactly in the center. So what I can do, simply here I can add text align center. All the content will be in the center. I can add some padding for this div. So something like 10 pixel. If I add 10 pixel padding, it looks like this. So some padding has been added. Now here I just need to display some image. So here I will just search for some male professional image. Okay, I will just grab some image here. I will paste that image here inside this SRC. If you go back here, you got here one card. Maybe I will try to take some different image. If you come back here, now see, we got some image. If you want, you can just increase the little bit width. Maybe I will make width as a 300 pixel. It looks something like this. Now we got one card where we are able to show user image, user name, some details, some bio kind of details, and one profile button. One profile button. Okay. Now here I have just added a border. There is one more property in CSS, something called box shadow. Now this box shadow property is very similar to your text shadow. Text shadow property is used to add the shadow to your content. It will add the shadow to the content. Box shadow will add the shadow to your element. It will add the shadow to your HTML element. It will add shadow to HTML element. Text shadow. It will add shadow to element content. Element content. Box shadow, text shadow. The syntax, the values of box shadow and text shadows are same. Whatever we have learned related to text shadow, same concept you can apply to the box shadow. Text shadow will add the shadow to the content. Box shadow will add the it will add the shadow to the element. It will add the shadow to element. So what I want to do for this to this div, I want to add some shadow. So simply I will use here box shadow. So 0 pixel, some 10 pixel, black. First value will be x-axis, second value will be y-axis, third value will be the blur, fourth value will be the color. Whatever we have learned related to text shadow in the last session, same concept you can apply for the box shadow. Now if I go back here, now see some shadow has been applied to our card. If I want, I can remove this border now. I don't want this border. So I will just remove this border from here. If I remove this border, it looks something like this. It looks something like this. Image, some username, some content related to the user, and I have here one button, profile button. For this button, if you want, you can just add some padding. So I will just select that button, padding, 5 pixel from top and bottom, and maybe something like 15 pixel from left and right. Now see, for button, we are adding some padding. Maybe I will make it 25. Now see, 25 pixel space is added. So we have just added some padding for button. So we have the content, we have the user image, user name, and one button. See, we are able to create one basic card, very basic card. And to create that basic card, we know all the concept. We know what is div, we know what is image, we know what is H2, we know what is paragraph, we know what is button now. And when it comes to CSS, we are aware about margin 0 pixel, why we are adding to the body. We know what is the use of width. We know what is the use of height. We know why did we added margin property. We know why did we added text align property. We know why did we added padding property. And we know why did we added box shadow property. And in the same way, we are aware about padding property also. So in this entire document, we know each and every line, why we are writing that line. If you write that line, what is the effect you are going to see on the screen? Am I right? So anybody have any kind of confusion in creating this card? Did you guys understood how to create this card? Yeah, margin auto is used to generate equal space from left and right. It will generate equal amount space from right and left. Okay. Text align is used to bring the content of that element in the center. Now for this div, the image, this H2, this paragraph and button are like a children's. So those children's will come in the center of that div. If you use text align, if you use margin for this div, margin will generate equal space from left and from right. So using margin, we can bring this div in the center. Using text align property, we can bring the content of div in the center. Using margin, we can bring this div in the center. Using text align property, we can bring the content of this div inside the center. Okay. Yes. Akhilesh, you can just watch yesterday's video. I have explained why did we added margin 0 for body. So guys, if you are missing last session, make sure you are watching the last session video and coming to the new session. Okay, because there are a lot of concepts which I have already explained. Now again, if I repeat that concept, it will just waste our time. So if you are attending any new session, and if you due to some reason you were not able to attend last session, so I would advise you guys to watch that recording and come to the new session. Then you will not have any kind of confusion, or else this new session will create a lot of confusion in you. Because each and every session will be independent on each other. So today's session, whatever we are going to learn, okay, that we are going to use in tomorrow's session. So tomorrow's session is dependent on today's session. Today's session is dependent on yesterday's session. Okay, can I create one more card? Can I create like this one more card? So if I want to create one more card, just I will copy and paste, right? I will simply copy and paste the same code. And I just need to change the data. So here I will just add something like Sneha Reddy. Okay, and I will change the image. So here simply I will search for female professional image. Okay, I will get some image here. I will just copy this image. I will add here. If I go back here, now see, I got one more image here. I got something like Sneha Reddy. Here Sneha Reddy. Here I got Ayush Verma. Okay, so what we did, we created two cards and we have just changed the data. We have just changed the image and the name. Apart from that, everything is same. Apart from that, everything is same. But now how your elements are, these cards are displaying. Now you have this screen. On this screen, we are displaying our first card here. And next card we are displaying here. This is how our cards are displayed, right? Card 1, card 2. Now I don't want to display my cards one after another. I don't want to display my cards one after another. Instead of that, I want to display my cards one beside another, like this. Maybe I want to create one more card. I want to display like this. So I want to display 3 cards in one row. 3 cards in one row. Now, can you guys tell me how can we display 3 cards in one row? Yes, here we can use table concept. Nice. We can use table concept. So what we can do, we can create one table. We can create only one row and 3 columns. And in each column, you can display the card. You can display that card. Card 1, card 2, card 3. Can we try that? Can we try? Okay, so what I will do, first I will create one table here. In that, only one row and 3 columns. One table, one row, 3 columns. In each column, I want to add one card. So I will copy this first card. Remove from here, I will add here. Same card I will add in the 3rd column also. I will remove this 2nd card. I will add in the 2nd column. Okay. If I load this document, if I just go back to my browser, now see I got 3 cards. Card 1, card 2, card 3. Can I increase the width of my table? Can I make the width of my table as 100%? Now see, I got 3 cards. Are you understanding how a table concept can be used to create the layouts now? We have created one layout, right? So we have created like this layout. So we have created the layout using the Flex concept. Am I right? So can you guys tell me what is the meaning of layout? What is the meaning of layout? What do you mean by layout? Yes, layout is nothing but arranging items in specific way. In some way we are arranging items, right? So here see we are arranging our items. Item 1, item 2, item 3 in a one row. So table concept we can use to create layouts and to show the content in the tabular concept, in the tabular way or tabular format. So table concept we can use to create layouts and to show the content in the tabular format. Okay. So similar to table in CSS, there is one more concept called Flex concept. Now using Flex concept also, we can create layout. We can create layout. Using Flex concept also, we can create layout. Now Flex is CSS concept. Table is HTML concept. Table is HTML concept. Flex is CSS concept. So using Flex concept also, we can create layout in one direction at a time. In a one direction at a time. One direction means it can be row or column. You can create layouts only in one direction at a time. At a time, we can create layouts only in one direction. It can be row or column. Row means like this. This is the row. Column means like this. We can create layouts. For example, I want to create layout like this. I want to create 3 sections. Section 1. Section 2, section 3. Now this is called creating the layout in the row direction. Or else we can create layout something like this. Section 1, section 2, and section 3. Now this is called creating the layout in the column direction. Okay. So what is Flex? Flex is the concept in CSS using which we can create layouts in any one direction at a time. In any one direction at a time. We can create layouts in row direction, or we can create layouts in column direction. Row direction or column direction. Okay. Is it clear, guys? Okay, now let's see how can we create the layouts using the Flex concept. Creating the layout using Flex concept. So to create layout using Flex concept, first we have to create, first step is to create Flex container. First step is create the Flex container. So creating the layout using Flex concept. How to create the layouts using Flex concept means first step is to create the Flex container, something called Flex container. How to create a Flex container? It's very easy. Take one div element. Take a div element. To this div element, assign some width and height. Assign some width and height. Assign width and height. Apart from this, assign one special property called display. And the value of display we have to assign as a flex. We have to assign one more property called display, and the value of that display property should be flex. If you assign this property to any div, that div will be converted into flex container. That div will be converted into flex container. So first step to create the layouts using flex concept is to create a flex container. How to create flex container? For that, we will take one div element. To that div element, we will assign some width and height. And we will assign one more property called display flex. Something called display flex. Now, whenever you assign display flex, that div is converted like a flex container. Now, once you created the flex container, now inside the flex container, we can create any number of rows or any number of columns, but at one time. At one time, we can create any number of rows or columns. So inside flex container, we can create any number of rows, or remember, or any number of columns at a time. So inside flex container, we can create any number of rows or any number of columns at a time. Okay. So first, let's see how can we create a flex container. First, let's create one flex container. So to create one flex container, we required one div element. So here I am taking one more file, something called flex.html, creating the HTML document. Inside this body, taking one div. Now this is normal div. Now this div I want to convert like a flex container. So to this div, I will just add one ID, something called flex container. I will select this div using this ID value. Hash flex container. Now to this div, first I will assign some width, maybe something like 1000 pixel, height, something like 400 pixel. I will add border, 2 pixel solid red. And if I just open this document in my browser, it looks something like this. Now this is normal div, which has some width and height and some border property. Now, if I ask you, is this a flex container? Your answer should be no. To make this div as a flex container, what we need to do? We have to simply add display property. And the value of this display property should be flex. Now, whenever you add this property, now this is your flex container. Now it converted into flex container. Now inside this flex container, we can create any number of rows, we can create any number of columns, but at a time you can create rows or columns. You cannot create both. You cannot create both. At a time you can create rows or columns. So this is my flex container, suppose. Now inside this flex container, you can create like these columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3, like this you can create any number of columns. Or inside this flex container, we can create any number of rows. Like this rows, row 1, row 2, row 3. Okay, at a time you can create any one. Columns and rows we cannot create at same time. At same time, we cannot create column and rows. We can create any one. Okay, let's suppose in my flex container, I created like this flex container, right? Inside this flex container, let's suppose I want to create 3 columns. Column 1, like this, column 1, column 2, column 3. I want to create like this 3 columns. 1, 2, 3, like this. If you want to create 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, then what we need to do, we have to take one more div element. For every column, we have to take one div element. So using div element only, we can create columns. To create columns also, again, we have to take div element. Now inside this container, how many columns you want? That many divs you take. Inside this flex container, I want 3 columns. So I will take 3 divs. So I will say here column 1, here column 2, here column 3. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Now for all the columns, I will assign some ID. ID equals to, I will say box 1. Here also I will add ID equals to box 2. Here I will add ID equals to box 3. Now how many divs I taken? 3 divs. It means 3 columns I want to create. Now to create columns, we have to use one more property called flex direction. Now using this flex direction, we can tell to the browser whether we have to create columns or you want to create rows. You want to create columns or you want to create rows. If you want to create like these columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, then the flex direction value should be row. Flex direction value should be row if you want to create column. Okay, this is little confusion. If you want to create columns, flex direction value should be row. Now if I go back here, if I select all this box 1, I will just add some background color here, something like red. For box 2, I will add background color like a green. For box 3, I will add background color something like blue. Box 1, box 2, box 3. Now if I go back to my browser, see 3 columns are created. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Column 1, column 2, column 3. 3 columns are created. Column 1, column 2, column 3. So this is little confusion. There is a little confusion. What is that confusion? If you want to create columns, the value of flex direction, you have to add as a row. Now see, column 1, column 2, column 3. If you want, you can increase the size. So for this first column, I want to give the width as 300 pixel. For second, I want to give the width as a 300 pixel. And for third, I want to give the width as a 400 pixel. So 3 plus 3, like 600. 600 plus 4, it's like 1000. A total flex container width is 1000. So if I save it, if I go back here, now see, I got 3 columns. I got here 3 columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Now, whatever you want to display in this column, you can display. Whatever you want to display in this column, you can display. Okay. So here we are trying to focus on how to create layouts, using Flex concept. So to create layout using Flex concept, first we have to create Flex container. How to create Flex container? To create Flex container, we have taken one div, we have assigned some width and height, and we have added a property called display flex. Now, after creating the Flex container, to create layouts, we need to create columns or rows. We have to create columns or rows. So using Flex, at a time, we can create columns or rows. We cannot create both the things at a time. We can create any one between rows and columns at a time. So here, first we are learning how to create columns. How to create columns. Create 3 columns in the Flex container. How to create 3 columns in the Flex container? So to create every column, we are taking one more div element. To create column, we are taking div element. So inside this Flex container, we want 3 columns. So we have taken 3 divs. We have taken 3 divs. Now, how can we tell to the browser inside this Flex container, you have to create columns, not rows, using the Flex direction property. Now, Flex direction property will create 3 columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Suppose you want to create 3 rows. If you want to create 3 rows, then Flex direction value should be column. If you say column, it will create 3 rows. Now, these are the 3 rows. Row 1, row 2, row 3. If you are creating rows, then we have to remove this width property. So I am commenting this width property. One, two, three. Now here we have to assign height. Maybe here I will say 100 pixel. Here I will say height 200 pixel, and here height 100 pixel. Column 1, this row 1, row 2, row 3. So to create rows, what we need to do? We have to give Flex direction value as a column. We have to give Flex direction value as a column. I will create one more. Here I will say Flex container with rows. I will say in the same way, I will create one more Flex container with columns. And here I will add something like 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. And here simply I will add column, here rows. So you guys will have both the examples. Okay. Now I have to select this Flex container. I will say here with rows. I will copy Flex container with columns. Here maybe I will add black. Here columns. Here I will add the value row. Okay. Now same thing I have to copy. Now here it should be 4, 5, 6. I will uncomment width. So if you come back here, we have something like this. Now here, I think width. Here we have to add height actually. So here flex container with rows. First one. Rows means here the direction is rows. Rows means it will create columns. So if you want columns, then here you have to give the width value. Here I need to comment this. I need to comment this. I need to comment this. Or else I think you guys will get confused here. So let me create one more file here. I will just keep both the things in two different files. Here I will say flex columns .html. This I will change to flex row. Okay. So first I want to create rows. Okay. Let's try one more time. So here I will copy this code. I will remove from here. I will paste here. Now let's suppose I have taken one container hash flex container with columns. I will assign some width, maybe something like 1000 pixel, height, something like 400 pixel, border 2 pixel, solid black. Okay, now if I load this document in my browser, one container is created. Row 5, row 6, row 7. Okay, here instead of value rows, I will add here columns. Columns, columns, columns. Because I want to create here flex container with columns. 1, 2, 3. Now tell me, this is a flex container or not? This particular div is flex container or not? This div is a flex container or not? Now this is the code. If I ask you this div is flex container or not, what will be your answer? Answer is no. Why answer is no? Because we haven't added that display property. Now I will add display flex. Now if I ask you, is this container is flex container or not? Now your answer should be yes. Now inside this, I want to create 3 columns. Here I want to create 3 columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Now to create columns, we have to use flex direction property. And what should be the value? Flex direction value should be what? I want to create columns. Then what should be the flex direction value? Yes, flex direction value should be row. Okay, now I will select these colors. I will add here. Okay, let me remove this width as of now. Let me remove this width and height property. Now I just added background color. Apart from that, nothing. Now if I save it, if I go back here, now see 3 columns are created. 1, 2, 3. Now I want these 3 columns should occupy my entire container. I want these 3 columns should occupy my entire container. Then what we need to do? We have to simply add the width. Width equals to, here I am just adding 300 pixel. Here also width 300 pixel. Here width, I will add something like 400 pixel. So 300 plus 300, 600, 600 plus 400, it's like 1000. And our flex container total width is 1000. So it will occupy entire. Okay. Now in this row, in this I want to create 3 rows. So let me remove these properties first. Okay, just I have 3 divs, column 1, column 2, column 3. Here I want to create rows. So I will say row 1, row 2, row 3. Now if I open this document in my browser, it looks something like this. Row 1, row 2, row 3. Now can I add border? Here I need to remove this part. Flex container with rows. Flex container with rows. Now if I go back here, now let me check. Are we doing any mistake here? Let me just copy this and let me add here. Now if I load this document, it looks like this. This is the container. Now inside this container I want to make like a flex container. So how to make? Simply add display flex. Now inside this, I want to create rows, not columns. If you want to create rows, then flex the direction value should be column. Flex the direction value should be column. Now 3 rows will be created. 3 rows are created. Now we have to add the height so that it will occupy the complete height of our flex container. So for that, simply add height. Maybe here I will add 100 pixel. Here also height 100 pixel. Or maybe here I will add 200 pixel. Here height I will say 100 pixel. 100 plus 200, 300, 300 plus 100, 400. And our container height is 400. So it will occupy complete container. Now row 1, row 2, row 3, column 1, column 2, column 3. So at a time, we can create rows or we can create columns. We can create columns or we can create rows. Understood? So as of now, we know only 2 properties related to flex. Flex, the value should be, here we know display, value should be flex, and flex direction. For flex direction, values can be row or column. Row or column. If you say row, it will create columns. If you say column, it will create rows. It will create rows. Is it clear for everyone? Okay, this will confuse little bit. That is the reason you guys have to practice so that you will not get confused with these rows and columns. Because they have given opposite values, right? For rows, it's like it will create columns. For column, it like creates rows. So these are the columns. So to create columns, flex direction value, we have given the column. This we have given the rows. Now to create like this rows, our flex direction Flex direction value is column. Okay. Now suppose if I want to create one page like this, I want to create one HTML page. I want to create one HTML page. Now this HTML page should have one header section like this. It should have some body section. Then it should have one footer section. It should have one footer section. Now tell me, to create like this layout, can we use flex concept? I want to create a page. In that page, I want to create 3 sections. What are those 3 sections? The first section should be header. Second section should be like main section. Third section should be footer section. So can we create this kind of layout? Yes. So to create this kind of layout, what should be the flex direction value? What should be the flex direction value? Nice. It should be column. So can we create? Shall we try this layout? Shall we try this layout? Okay. So here I am just creating something like page design .html. So first we required one container. First we required like this container, right? First we required one container. So to create like this flex container, we have to use one div. So here I am simply giving the value container. Okay. I have given the value container. So let me select that container. Now to this container, I am adding width, something like 100%. Height, I will add something like 450 pixel. And I will just add border 3 pixel solid black. Now if I load this page, I got this container. Okay. So I want to increase the height. Maybe I will add 550 pixel. I got like this height. Okay. Let's suppose this is our page. Let's assume that this is our page. Our page is starting from here. It is ending here. Now in this page, I want to create 3 sections. 3 sections means I need to create 3 rows, right? Basically. So for every row, we are taking one div. So this is my header. So here I will add ID as a header. Then I want to create body main section like main. Here I will say ID equals to main. Then I want footer. Here footer. ID should be footer. Okay. Now this container we have to make like a flex container. So display flex. Flex direction should be column. Now we have to select our header. For header, I am just adding one background color, something called light coral. Height. Okay, something like maybe I will give 100 pixel. Hash main. Here also I will add background color, something like light green. Height, maybe something like 400 pixel, or maybe I will add 300 pixel. So 300 plus 100, it's like 400. 150 is remaining. Hash footer, background color should be something like light salmon, and height I will say 150 pixel, so that it will occupy my entire container. Now if I go back here, now see 3 containers are created. Header, main, footer. Header, main, footer. Got it? Or else we can make this as a 50, this one as a 100. So 100 plus 50, it's like 150 here, 400. Now it will be like this. Now header, main section and footer section. Can I make it 600? So 600 is going slightly down. Here maybe I will try something like 580. Okay, now this height I want to increase for footer. Maybe here I will add 130 pixel. Now see header, main section and footer. Just we created some layout. Apart from that, nothing. Now here we can design our nav bar. Here we can design some UI. Here we can design our footer part. So like this, we can create layouts. We can create any complex layout. Suppose if I want to create like this layout. This should be my page. I want one header section. Then I want one footer section. In this footer section, I want to create column 1, column 2, and column 3. Column 1, column 2, column 3. In main section, I want to create only like this. I want to create this layout. So can we create this layout? Okay, you take this as an assignment. You try. First you try. If you guys are not able to create, then in tomorrow's session, I will show you how to create this kind of layout. So if you watch any footer section, guys, so if I go to your browser and just search for footer template, any footer template. Now see, here we have this 4 columns, right? Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So I want like this 4 columns. So if you take any footer section, you will get this layout. If you take this one, now here also we have same thing. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So like this, we will try to create layouts. So first, let's learn how to create layout. Then slowly, we will learn how to create this kind of web pages, how to design this kind of web pages. Okay. So slowly, you will be able to develop this kind of web pages. This kind of web pages. It's very easy. You just need to learn the layouts. How to create layout. Now, once you know how to create layout, then you will be able to create any kind of websites, any kind of web pages you will be able to develop. Okay. So in tomorrow's session, we will explore Flex concept in much more detail. We will let's try to explore some more content okay, or some more properties related to Flex. We just learned two properties, display and flex direction. We need to learn some more properties like justify content, align items, okay, gap, flex. Like this, we have to learn some more topics. So once we know, then we will be able to develop this part, that Netflix landing page. So if I go back here, if I open that Netflix landing page, we will be able to develop this kind of UI. Okay. Now, by seeing this UI, it looks little complicated. The people who are very new, but once you learn Flex concept, then creating this UI will be very easy. Very easy. Okay. We can create this also. We will create this part also. In tomorrow's session, we will develop this. In day after, like in the next session, like maybe on Monday, we will develop this. On Monday, we will develop this. Tomorrow, we will develop this. Okay, tomorrow we will have the session, guys. Tomorrow is Saturday, but still we will have the session because I think we have missed one session on Wednesday, right? So that Wednesday session, I will cover in tomorrow's. So in tomorrow's session, I will show you how to develop this page. Yeah, I will show you how to show this image in this circle. How to show the image circle, I will show that. Okay, this entire page I will develop in front of you so that you guys will get idea how to develop. Then I will give you another page as an assignment. Okay, so you guys can develop this part. This part you guys can develop. I will show you this part. You develop this part. Yeah, I will show you how to add the images from local drive also. Okay, in real time, we will never do that approach, but still I will show you that part. How to add images from the local drives. Okay. So guys, you can just add the feedback, like if you want something to be improved or if you are expecting something else, feel free to add your expectations in this feedback form. Okay, so that I will get the idea, like exactly what you guys are expecting. So in that way, I can align my teaching style. Feel free to add any kind of feedback. It can be positive, negative, whatever you feel, whatever experience you got, try to add that feedback. Okay, so I'm not taking any names, I'm not taking any numbers, I'm not taking any email IDs. So feel free to add your genuine feedback. Yes, in real time, we will add the images from the links only. We will just upload that images somewhere in the database or somewhere in the storage, and we will generate that links, and using those links only, we will access those images on the website. Yeah, that's all, guys. If you have any doubts, you feel free to ask. If you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can drop. Let's join tomorrow. No, it's not necessary. If your requirement demands, then only you have to add background color. If your requirement doesn't demands, you should not add. Yeah, Govind. We will have a separate session on CSS units. Okay. When to use pixel, when to use percentage, what is M, rem, okay, what is VH, what is VW, when to use those units. All those we will learn, but we will have a separate session on that CSS units. It's very, very important topic.